missing on Friday the 27th of January after dropping her children at St Michael's School in St Michael's. As soon as she was reported missing, following the information that was provided to the police by her partner Paul, and based on a number of specific vulnerabilities that we were made aware of, Nicola was graded as high risk. That is normal in a missing person from investigation with the information we were in possession of.
So you notice here that she says right off the bat, the information she was given by Paul, she was designated as high risk. Paul is the narrator to lead them to believe that she had poor mental health, suicidal, what have you. Okay? She's not going to go in and say it. She's got to respect the family. She's looking out for the girls. That's what she's saying there. Okay? Now, in Paul's interview, okay, listen to him. This last weekend. Listen to him here. He's already setting the stage that Nikki had the psychology or outlook that she was going to do something that day. Watch here and we'll further discuss.
So the only difference that morning was, usually, when you've got children, getting up on a school day, you probably know yourself, it's just mayhem, isn't it?
So as he begins to discuss the morning here, he's setting the table. He's gaslighting the interviewer, and he's seeking for affirmation. You following me? It's mayhem. It's chaotic, isn't it?
Carnage, yeah. Yeah, absolute carnage. So the only difference on that morning 2 weeks ago was that there wasn't a lot of rushing. I came down and a lot of stuff was already done. It was, the girls were having a breakfast and everything was pretty much ready to go. A lot of rushing. I came down and a lot of stuff was already done. It was, the girls were having a breakfast and everything was pretty much ready to go. There wasn't a lot of rushing. I came down and a lot of stuff was already done. It was, the girls were having a breakfast and everything was pretty much ready to go. There wasn't a lot of rushing. I came down and a lot of stuff was already done. It was, the girls were having a breakfast and everything was pretty much ready to go.
He's selling the narrative that it occurred to him that morning. He recognized that she appeared to be ahead of schedule. There was no rush. Everything was ready to go. Now, why would he suggest something like that? Because he's going to use this narrative when he talks to this lady who just did his press conference today to suggest the high risk, she was suicidal, she's not feeling mental health or whatever. Now, if you're confused, how does that fit? Suggesting that she has everything ready earlier than normal and it wasn't chaotic and everything was pretty much done. He was kind of surprised. He's wanting to create the idea that her mind was elsewhere, that she had something else on her mind that day. What is that? What eventually happened. I hope you're following me there. Okay, so when she said that today about how she got information from Paul, which led the investigation to believe that she was high risk right off the bat and that there was no evidence of a third party being involved, therefore they believe she fell into the river, is because he created the idea and planted the seed that this is what most likely happened because she's vulnerable and she's at high risk. She could have done something like that. He creates a narrative for that morning. Something was off. She was ahead of schedule. She got done things a little bit early. Why? Because that creates the idea that her mind was elsewhere. It fits the puzzle for her to then go and do something like that. Further, remember, he didn't come out and speak publicly for the first 7 or 8 days, the entire first week. Peter Falding started talking on the news. I could find her right away. So then Paul gets ahead of the 8 ball, calls Peter himself. Peter comes down. I don't think Paul thought that Peter would be so outspoken. She's not in there. If she was been in there, I could have found her. So what does Paul then do? He goes underneath the wing of Peter to follow suit. But yet, remember, he says, I don't want to fault the police. They haven't done anything wrong here. Well, remember, because he's led them to believe it was high risk and that she likely was poor mental health and that she could have committed suicide. He didn't speak the entire first week. People were getting all over him for his first interview. So he gets ahead of the 8 ball, calls Peter to come in. Peter comes in. He's extremely outspoken. She's not in there. If she was, I would have found her. And now he's his sidekick. Okay, but it doesn't add up with his initial accounts, right? She's not in the river. Why did Paul switch gears?
In this country wants to find out what's happened to Nicola to be able to give her 2 children the answers they deserve.
Notice here how she says, give her 2 children the answers they deserve. Her 2 children. Not Paul. Not Paul.
In this country wants to find out what's happened to Nicola to be able to give her 2 children the answers they deserve. This country wants to find out what's happened to Nicola to be able to give her 2 children the answers they deserve. As Mr. Dawson has said, at the minute, with the information that we have received and reviewed, there is not a single piece of information or evidence to suggest that there is any third-party involvement in this investigation. And that continues and will continue to do so until we have reviewed all the information received.
Something even crazier that just occurred to me. Paul would not be considered a third party. He's spousal. Yes, they're not married, but he's the partner. He's in the intimate, immediate relationship. So if there was suspicion into him, he does not fall under the umbrella of a third party. So when she says and reiterates that there is not evidence of a third party, but that does not mean they're not potentially looking at spousal or partner.
They're doing, because you're missing the woman that you love, but they're missing their mum, and the questions they must be asking you are heartbreaking at the moment.
Yeah, it's impossible.
They're doing, because you're missing the woman that you love, but they're missing their mum, and the questions they must be asking you are heartbreaking at the moment.
Yeah, it's impossible.
They're doing, because you're missing the woman that you love, but they're missing their mum, and the questions they must be asking you are heartbreaking at the moment.
Yeah, it's impossible.
The woman you love, it must be heartbreaking. Like zero emotion, zero. Right? And then he goes on to ask her to describe Nikki. She's fun. She's loving. What you see is what you get. She's a great mom. And I was telling Emma, like, he's distancing completely. She's a great mom. What about a partner? Okay? She's loving, she's fun, and what you see is what you get. That doesn't sound like somebody who you have 2 kids with and that you're a partner of and you're wanting her to come back. I mean, he's so distanced from it.
She is fun. She is loving. She is, if you're friends with her, she's the most loyal friend that you could ever have. With Nikki, what you see is what you get. There's no hidden, nothing's hidden. It's all, that's her. And she is an exceptional mum, and she absolutely, adores our girls. It goes above and beyond. I was saying to Emma the other day, I don't think that she's been away from them for more than 1 or 2 nights.
So am I saying that he's guilty or he did anything? No, I can't possibly say that. What I'm doing is I am sharing my thought process upon watching that press conference this morning, learning that the reason why they're so dead set on the river in the water is because they were given the impression from the beginning that she's at high risk and has all these vulnerabilities. Given the information that Paul had told them she's probably suicidal, her mental health, she's an alcoholic, you name it, okay? So they go in there with that idea. She's in the water. That's the only way she could have done something to herself, is the water, right? He even sets it up, how was that morning? Oh, it's a little odd. I came downstairs and I noticed she had everything ready. Wasn't it chaotic? The kids already had breakfast. And he's setting the narrative to create the idea that once he says that, oh yeah, maybe she did have something on her mind. That is more likely that she could have done something. It's all by design. But he gets all this heat because he hasn't talked for the first 7 days. Then he does an interview. He bombs it, shows no emotion. He's looking all over the place. He's smirking, laughing. It's like she vanished into thin air, And he says it's like a dream, not a nightmare, a dream. So what does he do? He contacts Peter Falding to come in, tries to get ahead of it to recover his image. And then Peter comes in, and lo and behold, he's so outspoken and says, she's not in there. If she was in there, I would have found her. If she was in there, I would have found her. So what does he do? He moves his chess piece and gets in right behind him. Yeah, I'm 100% convinced she's not in the water. I'm 100% convinced she's not in the water. Well, she's not in the water, dude. I mean, I hate to be this person to sit here and point fingers, but man, I'm big on behavior, and his demeanor does not add up in the fact that the high vulnerabilities. Problem is he misled police in the beginning. Okay? And the key thing to catch on to here, there's no evidence to lead one to believe that there's a third party involved. A lot of people get confused by this, okay? Because logically, it should be the other way around, okay? It should be you consider all options until they're exhausted. You shouldn't need to find a piece of physical evidence to then consider a potential alternative of a third party, right? That's why it's so mind-boggling and confusing to everybody, right? Listen here.
But as Mr. Dawson has said, at the minute, with the information that we have received and reviewed, there is not a single piece of information or evidence to suggest that there is any third-party involvement in this investigation. And that continues and will continue to do so until we have reviewed all the information received.
Yeah, there's no third-party involvement because either she fell in the river, it was suicide, she ran away with another dude, or Paul did something. There's not a third party involved. Now, here's the problem. He has an alibi to this point. You got to poke holes in it. But it's been 20 days, okay? He's not stupid, okay? He's smart. He's an engineer. He knows how to orchestrate and put shit together, okay? They're going to have to be able to find holes in his timeline. That's what they're going to have to do. The problem is they relied so heavily on him from the beginning, his rapport, his reputation. And now they're caught between a rock and a hard place. Now, again, I'm not saying it's him, okay? I don't want to cause speculation. This is trying to be educational, informative, observation from a psychological perspective, behavioral perspective, okay? I saw that interview, and right when I heard that, I was like, oh, man. He created the narrative from the get-go. They bought it fish line, hook, line, and sinker. He played the part. And he thinks he's outsmarting everybody. Doing these interviews, playing along, saying this, saying that. You can't prove it. He thinks he's smarter than everybody. Look at him. Watch him. Listen to him. That's exactly what's going on. At this point, he has got the police and the investigation hoodwinked. Absolutely hoodwinked. All right. That's it for me this time, everyone. Until next time, Mind Juice out.